Next thing you have your eye on, J-Mac.
I'm looking at the Kansas City Chiefs. Mahomes is coming back. He's aiming for week 1. Are they still a contender? They didn't make the playoffs last year. They haven't retooled all the way around them on the offensive side of the ball. Was expecting them to go get a wide receiver. They didn't do that. A ton of new pieces on the defensive side of the ball. Is this a team that can still win the Super Bowl? Or are they kind of hitting reset in the middle of the Mahomes run where he's going to have that second part? But is it going to be this season?
What do you think?
I think it's obvious that they're hitting reset in the middle of the run, that this is not a legitimate contender. The big addition they made was Kenneth Walker. They didn't make the receiver additions that they needed. They lost their entire secondary. Their best players on defense are aging, and their Super Bowl champion, Hall of Fame, best of all time quarterback is limping around in a brace. It's hard for me to imagine that this is going to be a contender in the AFC this coming season.
But they're not thinking like that.
Of course they are.
When you have Mahomes out there, when you have Chris Jones and Travis Kelce, and you're paying that kind of money for a running back in Kenneth Walker, you believe that you have a chance to get back to the Super Bowl another year and do it again. That's what they believe.
I believe I could be an astronaut. It doesn't mean that it's true.
Talk to Kyle. He'll say
What
it
do the
straight.
analytics say? I'm interested to hear if we could pop it up on the screen when you get it. Like, where do we rank them as far as likelihood? Because I agree with you guys. I watched a team last year long before Patrick Mahomes got hurt.
Yeah,
and this team has any number of other problems, and I don't know that they have filled those. What is your sense of Kansas City?
This is when I buy, and this is when I trust them. And the Walker thing to me is, we've never seen Mahomes like this. This is like, remember when Happy Gilmore learns how to putt, and he's like, oh crap, like now he's a whole different golfer.
Yeah.
We've never, as much as we love Pacheco and Kareem Hunt, all those guys, it's always been Kelce and Tyreek. There's never been 1st and 10, turn around and hand it off, 25 carry running back. The reason they spent so much money is because that is going to be the offense.
Right.
So I'm intrigued. We've never seen this before from Mahomes, and this is when I buy. All the stuff you were saying about they're limping around, everybody's old, I totally get it. But this is when I'm in on.
I think you're right. You can buy now, but it's not going to pay off until 2027 is when it's going to pay off. It's not going to pay off this year.
Maybe longer than that. Look, if you look at the people, when Hembo and I did the book about the greatest dynasties, the Patriot dynasty is really two separate dynasties.
Definitely.
The only threads of commonality between them are Brady and Belichick. But there was a lull, if you will, in between, and they never got bad. Our analytics have the Chiefs 68% chance to make the playoffs. All right, that's still pretty high. I mean, 38% chance to win the division.
I still think they are the most favored team in that division, according to our analytics, to win the AFC West for whatever that's worth. It's the first time last year that they haven't been to the playoffs since 2013. They had won 9 straight or 8 straight division titles.
That's right.
Something tells me that Patrick Mahomes is going to be a little bit motivated this year to try to make up for last year.
Okay. Let's talk about this. Again, this was multiple conversations at once. You know, we're talking about the future, we're talking about the past, we're talking about the present. We're talking about Mahomes limping, we're talking about Kenneth Walker, we're talking about receivers, we're talking about the secondary. It's like, they're like, let's just throw every single Kansas City Chiefs topic we can. We're talking about Tyreek Hill, you know, like, it's like, let's just throw everything in there. Here's the way I look at it. The Kansas City Chiefs, because I thought they should have done more with receivers as well, right? That's what I talked about all going into the draft. That's the move that I wanted them to make. But they didn't, which is fine. And you're saying, well, they didn't really have it last season before Patrick Mahomes got injured, which is true. But the reality is this. They expect Rashee Rice to actually be a great bona fide wide receiver. They expect Xavier Worthy to continue to progress and become a better wide receiver. They're expecting, at least offensively, Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice to be a genuine 1-2 wide receiver duo with a very capable running back, Kenneth Walker, and the defense, maybe it's not going to be as elite as it was in 23, 24, 25. It's certainly not falling off a cliff, and certainly could still easily be top 10, maybe even better. And then the following season, they get, through the draft, free agency, whatever, they're back to being top 2, top 3, top 5, again, whatever cutoff point you want to use. And the reality is that the Chiefs have never needed. This is why I always push back on the whole, like, oh, we've never seen Mahomes with the run game like this. It's like, that's always just such nonsense because it's by design. It's how Andy runs his offenses. It's how he's done this since the beginning of time. He's always used the passing game he's always used the run game as an extension of the pass game. That's always how he's done it. Always, always, always. Since before many of you had any idea who Andy Reid was. Because my guess is that a lot of Kansas City Chiefs fans were not watching the Philadelphia Eagles in 2002. It's just a hunch. Just a hunch. And so that's what's then going to be interesting in terms of like, how does Andy Reid then potentially look to change this offense, and does he need to? Does he want to utilize Kenneth Walker now in his system in a way that he did with, if anything, probably more of like a Westbrook or something. But again, you're talking about just a completely different era of football. So it's, I don't really hold any, pretty much any weight in any, different era comparisons. But I am actually curious because that's what everyone keeps talking about, Kenneth Walker and Mahomes. Kenneth Walker, Mahomes. And it's just like, I'm curious to see what Andy Reid has in store. How does he envision utilizing a Kenneth Walker and utilizing him in the pass game and just balancing this offense in general? And then to me, then it really does come down to, can Xavier Worthy, because I made a clip where I was going through the film of the Chiefs versus the Texans, and it's like, you see Xavier Worthy like make a absolute spectacular play, a spectacular catch, and in 2024 rookie, 2025 banged up. That team in general, obviously Rashee Rice is not there, then he is there. Like, it was just hard for them to really get any type of traction or momentum. It will be interesting to see, what does this team look like when everyone's healthy, when everyone's full strength, when everyone is at this point a veteran, experienced, right, potentially more balanced offense. What does this offense look like as a whole? That to me is what's really, really fascinating. And that to me is more about, is how is Andy Reid organizing this? How is he orchestrating this offense? Obviously, we have to see how healthy Patrick Mahomes is. Just that clips that I was looking at, I was like, he did not look good there. But Mahomes always looked weird, right? Mahomes always notoriously doesn't look like the most athletic quarterback, even just like the way he walks and stuff, and he power walks, right? Like, he's never really looked athletic, which has always been like an absolute trip of Mahomes, because he's Patrick Mahomes. He's obviously a world class, elite athlete, but yet like he always looks like he's just like, is your knee okay? Is there something wrong with your hip? So it's like, it's really kind of hard. And you see the big clunky brace and you're just like, yeah, it's hard to really gauge how he feels in any given moment. And like I talked about before, how does his game evolve? Not only that, how does his game evolve? And then is Andy very intentional how he looks to protect Patrick Mahomes? Like, that's also going to be there's definitely interesting layers to this. In terms of, how does Mahomes look to protect himself, and does Andy look to protect him more as well? Like, I'm really interested to see. To me, obviously I understand the focus is on Mahomes because it's Patrick Mahomes and he's injured and he's coming back and, all of that. To me, this really is so much more on the shoulders of Andy, of just like, how does he put it all together? How does he put it all together? And, I understand what he was saying in the segment where he was like, I don't think they're contenders this season, but maybe next season they can be. That this is like kind of like, phase one of the reset. I think that really comes down to entirely how healthy Patrick Mahomes is. How comfortable and confident does Mahomes feel and look throughout the course of this season? Especially when you look around at the other teams I know outside of the Rams having all the hype and all the momentum and a genuine stacked roster, there's no other team that I can just say, oh, well, the Chiefs are clearly not on the level of the Ravens. They're clearly not on the level of the Bills, clearly not on the level of the Bengals, clearly not on the level of the Seahawks, clearly not on the level of the Patriots. Like, I don't see that. I don't see that for any team, and I certainly won't see it for the Chiefs, again, as long as Patrick Mahomes is healthy. And if Mahomes is healthy, and as long as the roster is healthy, and as long as you're not like looking at Xavier Worthy as an absolute bust, where you're just like, okay, this guy is just not what anyone thought he was going to look like. And as long as the defense doesn't fall off a cliff, and as long as Rashee Rice is actually on the field and not doing any of the other nonsense that he tends to get up to, you're like, this team will be competent, this team will be competitive. And then it's just like, do you make the plays down the stretch, especially in the playoffs? And if you're still trying to figure out who's more likely to make the plays down the stretch, the Baltimore Ravens or the Kansas City Chiefs, it's like, yeah, I'm going to lean on, I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs every single time. Every single time. Now, the next layer of that is, but have the Ravens improved enough where they are on a different level than the Chiefs? Whereas even though that the Chiefs maybe can execute better or you trust them more, it doesn't matter because the Ravens are just simply a better team. Their defense is just too good. Their offense is just too smooth. So it does, so like that aspect does matter. In years past, especially 23 and 24, it was just like, hey, we're kind of equal. You might even be might have a slightly better roster, but like, we got better coaching. We know how to execute. We know how to do what needs to be done. So that's why we're gonna be able to edge you out in a way because we just know how to execute. We know how to prepare. We know how to game plan. We know what we need to do. You simply do not. You simply do not. And a perfect example of that is literally the Baltimore Ravens against the Buffalo Bills and how that game ended down the stretch. I don't see that. I'm incapable of seeing the Chiefs be capable of having, an execution like that. When they lost against the Eagles, it was just the example that I just said. They were just not good. The Eagles were just too good. The Chiefs' execution and this, that, wasn't going to matter because the Eagles were just simply a significantly better team. So it just did not matter. It did matter against the Bills. It did matter against the Texans or the Ravens or, any of those. Like it did matter. The execution is there. Go back throughout that entire season and you could be like, the execution was there against the Bills. The execution was there, whether it was playoffs or regular season. The execution was there against the Ravens, against the Bengals. Like there's just clear moments that you can just point to and say, this team executed, this team didn't. This team executed, this team didn't. Whereas in the Super Bowl, when the Chiefs obviously finally, when their bubble popped finally, it wasn't lack of execution. It wasn't like, oh, the Chiefs just didn't execute. Patrick Mahomes just wasn't good enough. No, the Eagles were just better. So none of that other stuff mattered. So you'd have to kind of look around the league and see, are there any teams that you're just like, they're just clearly better than the Chiefs? And if not, then it comes down to execution. And if it comes down to execution, I don't think there is a single team that is better, that has been better than the Kansas City Chiefs than executing since, 2018 or so. What team has been better at execution? I can't name a single team. And how I always say certain things like, oh, and it's not even close. It's not even close. I don't think there's any team that's even been remotely close in that regard. So look around the league and see how do the other teams fare. If they're a level above, sure, not maybe going to be able to get there. If not, then you just got to wait and see. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Kansas City Chiefs? Have they lost their aura? I didn't even notice that question. Do you think they're just straight up not contenders? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single comment, whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. Please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.